Next World. I am your host, Darie Nani, and tonight we have a special show. This is coming up in advance to the event we're holding on Thursday, attending Inner Peace. And joining me tonight, I have two very special guests. They are also the keynote speakers at the event. So we're going to talk about the main subject, which is attaining inner peace, how you do that, what it means, and how you can introduce that into your daily life, into your business life, into your personal life. So my first guest is an award-winning author, internationally recognized speaker. He's a cognitive behavioral expert, and he's authored 3 books, including A Path to Wisdom, hashtag loneliness, which I just love the title of. Just anything with hashtag is just amazing, and A Path to Excellence, the 8 facades. So it's not other than Tony J. Selimi. Tony, thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm very good, Darie. Thank you for having me on this show.
Yeah, excellent. So I wanted to just first of all introduce everyone here. So we also have Ysanne, who is a timing expert, and she's does some astrology. She's an award-winning author as well, and she's been doing this for I've read on your bio 4 decades. Is that right? That's a long time. I mean,
nearly.
You're really an expert. I mean, we come. I think anything after 3 decades, you're automatically an expert. You know, no one can disagree anymore. So yeah. So Ysanne, how are you today?
Oh, I'm very good actually. A busy day, but that's nice. It's gone in quite a structured and yet a flowing way. So, and I'm quite multifaceted. I've done about 10 different things today, but I kind of work well in that manner most of the time.
Excellent. And Tony, yourself, how what have you been up to? How give us a little little preview of what you've been up to.
What, recently or today?
Recently, today, just your sort of like latest developments, latest projects you're working on.
Yeah, I mean, November has been extremely challenging and extremely rewarding. On one hand, I lost my mother, which I was extremely close to, but then I was privileged to really take care of over thousands of people who came to the funeral. And I had to cancel a trip to America with private clients. I was in Brazil teaching my vital planning for elevated living program. And I was on my way to Miami and meet Jack Canfield and meet Oprah. Then I received the news, so I had to decide between the two. And literally I had to fly 19 hours, go back to Macedonia, take care of the funeral. But then while I was there, I was invited to 4 different major TV shows and radio interviews. And I came back while I'm servicing clients, doing my end accounts. So pretty busy month.
Wow. And, again, I'm really sorry to hear that you've lost your mother. It's a difficult thing for anyone. And, especially with everything going on. And you have, it sort of says a lot about you that you, even though you're going through that, you still put everyone else first, and you try to, live true to your, to the things that you talk about all the time. So, that's very commendable and admirable. So I think it sort of connects a bit to what we're going to talk about tonight, which is inner peace. And I don't think you can probably do that without having inner peace. So I think I'm going to start with you, Tony. I want to ask you, what does inner peace mean to you, and why is it important?
For me, inner peace is really this elixir for healthy, wealthy, and loving life. It is a way of being within ourselves, and it's a state where we consciously choose to create inner calm, where we become extremely emotionally and mentally in peace with everything that happens to us in any moment in time. And where a space where thoughts and external environment does not influence the way we react and the kind of choices we make within ourselves. So it's basically we're not prone to external stimulus to bring us out of inner control. So it's really about gaining this inner awareness and knowledge and wisdom of how this sophisticated body, mind and soul and heart connects together to really create that natural state of flow, which when we come into this world, we already are.
Huh. That's, yeah, that's just pretty deep. Yeah, I think I agree with that completely. Ysanne, what's your take on inner peace? Why is it important to you?
Oh, I concur with what Tony's been saying completely. I think, and that's interesting, I've used the word think. When we think, that often gets in the way of peace. That's why people meditate. Generally speaking, when they're asleep, they're peaceful. You might say they're having dreams or nightmares, but there's peace, right? I think when we're in our mother's womb, we're generally at peace. And when we're born, it's quite a big shock. And from then on, we have to find that way back to peace. I'm told I'm quite a calm person. I have a calming influence on people. I don't hold to peace the whole time. I can't. Things can get in the way. I'm not a great meditator. I find peace comes dropping slow, as I think the poet Yeats wrote. Peace comes dropping slow when we least expect it. And to me, it's pauses, the gaps between experiences, thoughts, words, notes. And those pauses are when something silent, magical can come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you use the the mythology of inner peace in your daily life? How do you apply it? I mean, what do you personally do?
I don't wake up or meditate in the morning. I'm more likely to go for a run. I've always been an active person in that manner. I find I can go within myself very easily. I don't think it needs to take more than a few seconds to find that peace. It doesn't have to be an hour.
Okay.
Certainly time changes when we do that. So when I go about my day, I think the most important thing is to be present. I'm sure Tony would agree that, to be focused. And it takes a moment. It's like the start of a race, the start of anything. Excuse me. We have to take that moment, and that starting point is important. And that's why, for me, timing and peace are actually very intrinsically linked. And I know when I'm overdoing things. I know when I need to just stop.
Yeah,
I do actually. Yeah,
but sometimes you just keep going and you don't even realize. Time goes by. You look up and it's like 10 o'clock at night. I think we've all done it. But I think you even reach a point where you're no longer creating anything useful anymore. It's just you're just sort of going through the motions. But so for you, it's exercise really. That's your meditation. You exercise, and that gives you the time in the morning, fresh air and all of that stuff to sort of focus on
get
into that space. Okay, and Tony, what about yourself? How do you apply inner peace to your daily life?
For me, having gone through a lot of adversity, the first thing I learned is about being able to train my mind. So therefore, the mind does not wander the moment we open our eyes. But also, when we go to sleep, it's about preparing yourself to go to sleep, so you don't really go into states of sleeps where you wake up in the morning and feeling disturbed already. And many people actually will feel disturbed after 8 hours, 10 hours sleep. So I'm sure also Ysanne will agree with it, because there are many people out there who do not have rest when they wake up. So when they wake up, their mind and the emotions, the entire body is not in peace. So what I tend to do is I start my sleep, first of all, training my mind and training myself to go into a restful place. And usually I have a place which is this magical forest. It's a big forest, and there's this beautiful stone, like a rock overlooking the entire forest. And I go there where I sleep. So I create that, and when I wake up in the morning, I already feel refreshed. And the sounds, I can hear the sounds of the birds and the smell and the moisture of the forest. And the first thing I do when I wake up my eyes in the morning is I really say, I love you and thank you. And I start reciting my gratitude journal, so my mind does not have time to think about my daily to-do list. So I literally ground myself first, and that is quite important. So I do my daily healing, self-healing, before I even start working with my clients. So for me, in every moment throughout the day, I tend to implement different techniques about how to be in the present moment, rather than sort of wondering what I have to do 2 hours down the line or 3 months down the line.
Yeah, so you kind of get that peacefulness at the beginning, of your day, so you feel grounded for the rest of the day. You feel focused, and nothing that can jump out can throw you that much, because you take that time at the start of your day to sort of get into that spot. It's inner peace is something that maybe not everyone considers, but I think it's something that we all practice to a certain degree. Maybe we're not aware we're practicing it, and I think when we don't is when we feel lost and we feel under pressure, and we feel constantly distracted, and probably like we don't have a direction in our lives. We're not too sure what's happening, and I think a lot of that comes from not exercising inner peace. So I think my next question to both of you is, what would you say to someone who is new to this concept? Try and convince them, why should they start practicing inner peace? Why should they take this time in their day to really focus on themselves?
Shall I say something?
Sorry, yes, please first.
Hello. I haven't said hello yet properly. Really interesting hearing your ideas, and I can go along with them completely. I think also, in a sense, you were talking about intention. Intention is so important. When we intend something, the rest follows. And I think finding that inner place, which for some people is a prison, I liken it to a temple. And I think quite often people are scared of being alone, the aloneness, solitude, being left alone, or even just being quiet. And I say, look at it as a temple, or your lovely analogy, a place rather than a prison. And I think I have not an advantage. I'm forever grateful for it, the work I do. As a child, I looked overhead, above all the time. Used to fall over a lot. And I recognise, just as our ancestors did, that this wonderful symmetry, this seamless web of energy that we're all connected with. And when we can actually align, and we don't have to be astronomers or astrologers to do this, we have easy access to information about the cycles of the planets, the lunar cycle, nature's cycles. And remember, our bodies do come from nature, although I believe our souls are from elsewhere. That when we actually align with it, how can we ever feel alone? How can we ever not feel peaceful? We are not alone. It's quite magical. And you look around you at people and places, and they just aren't even recognizing those things. They're caught up in all the day-to-day things. So I would say to somebody, even in the middle of, I was going to say the street, but on the pavement, when you stop the car, when you move away from your desk, when you stop one task, meet the next one, that you just take that moment to breathe in. Some people work well with finding a color within them to resonate with, or an image. And it doesn't have to take hours, just to take a moment to say, hello, I'm with you again. And then it's like the next step, you move on. I'd like to keep it quite simple when people say they don't know how to find that inner peace. It doesn't have to be complicated or difficult. What do you think, Tony?
That's very beautifully said, Ysanne. I'm just going to compliment to everything you've said in there. So the question I would ask any human being on the planet, why would you not be in that inner state of peace?
Yeah, that's good.
And if we were to look at a metaphor, for instance, if you ask any human being on the planet, would they rather go on a boat that goes through an ocean with waves of 200 meters, or would they go on a boat which flows very beautifully with a sunset? And by default, every human being will choose the sunset, unless they are suicidal and they want to kill themselves with 200-meter waves. And in a similar manner, we live in a very fast, dynamic, and extremely demanding world. Meaning the moment we wake up, we have tremendous distractions, which causes a lot of noise in our body. Now, the only thing you cannot buy currently, it's the body we are given by birth. So we have our soul sitting inside of our hearts, living and using this body for whatever life we have in this world left. And if we do not take care and we do not put our body number one, we're going to be living our lives like we are on that ship dealing with 200 meters of waves, struggling, surviving, and potentially dying. Now, when we don't have this inner state of flow and harmony and calm, our emotions and our entire chemistry of our body changes, which then causes a lot of mental, physical, and emotional illnesses. So we become extremely stressful, we have anxiety, we're prone to addiction, we smoke, our skin suffers, our organs suffers, and before we know it, our business suffers, our relationship suffers, and our finances suffer. So anybody who's listening to us, I would strongly recommend to practice on a daily basis and find that point within themselves where they can truly hear the alarm of their inner being, the alarm that each one of us was designed to be able to bring us back into the state of natural flow. The problem is most people have become desensitized about that alarm. So we tend to listen more about the alarms on the outer world, which is the voices which are stronger than the voice within ourselves. Now, inner peace and practicing daily different techniques, including those Ysanne mentioned and techniques which I teach all of my clients, and my TJS meditations, which all of my clients do on a daily basis, are just some of the techniques to be able to practice that. Ysanne mentioned, like, you can visualize an image that you love, or a place that you go traveling somewhere, or whatever it might be that really awakens that love, that amazing energy that really calms you and you really surrender to your true being. So the question again, I would say, why would you not do it?
Amazing. No, that's, yeah. And it is that simple. And I think it's one of those things that you don't stop to think about it. And, you know, like you said, there's so much stuff that goes on in your life from the minute you wake up. Usually your phone goes straight off, you know, so that's emails, Facebook, everything else is just sort of kicking in. And I don't think we have time to stop and even ask ourselves how we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing. It just feels that modern life is constantly needs something else from you. There's always someone else that needs a reply. There's always something else. And a lot of people never have time to really stop and listen to what they need. And it's a shame, you know, because like you said, Tony, you get burnt out and then everything starts to suffer around you, relationships, your business, your everything, you know, everything starts to fall apart because you're not taking care of yourself. And if you can't take care of yourself, then how can you possibly take care of anyone else also? So it's a vicious circle and it just keeps reinforcing. So you know, the next thing from that, I think, is I would like to know, why is timing important? And I think, Ysanne, since you're the timing expert, so you know, why is timing important? Why should our viewers care about timing, and why should they incorporate it into their daily routines?
I believe that we have inner timekeepers. Think about that for a moment. From the moment we're born, cycles are set into motion. Even if you don't know your time of birth, it really doesn't matter. Cycles are set into motion. And as I said just now, I think our bodies are from nature. And it's so important to honour that. And Tony said so rightly, and it's such a good reminder that if we don't look after our bodies, how on earth, words to that effect, can anything else not suffer? And we see it all the time. And even with technology, I think we know if we're on the computer, time just flies. That's scary. So I, for one, turn everything off at night, have no electronics, nothing on in the bedroom. That's beside the point of your question, but I think that's quite important because there's so much subliminal activity at work. But timing is so important too, when we have such a busy world out there, that we have to listen to some kind of compass. Listen, not just look, listen to the compass within us, a navigating tool. And the reason that, for example, people come to me for help is that although they know their inner timing, they have doubts. You tell me, who doesn't have some doubts, or they're listening to somebody's advice? And they get off kilter, they get off the map. So we have our own inner map. That's beautiful, and it started from the moment we're born. And following that pathway, sure, we can take detours. Depends how much time we've got. But timing is so important so we don't wear ourselves out, be with the flow. And what I said earlier about pauses, no music, no dance is as effective when it doesn't have pauses in it. Who think about that, music or dance? We need those pauses. When I was young, I trained at the martial arts. I don't think I can do it now, but that one. No. I trained with the Japanese. It was interesting because what you learn more than anything is about, and this is the point, about the mental discipline, the path of the peaceful warrior. One avoids conflict if one can. And the world is full of conflict. We've got our own inner enemies, our own inner fortifications, boundaries. And how do we bring them to the peace table? So knowing when to withdraw, knowing when to sidestep, knowing when to flow, knowing when to act, that's what timing is all about. And any great dancer or musician would know that. So how can we not know that within ourselves? And you're correct, Tony, we've got to take the time. We've got to take the peace within to give ourselves that space. The space and time work together. That space. We're not going to miss out on the world. Nobody's going to forget us if we have that inner space for a while. And I don't know about yourself, but I definitely find that when I do things in a more paced way, it all gets done. It all gets done anyway, rather than rushing. And these are old truths. And they're so relevant to this modern world we're living in. So if I can help just one person and myself to be more in touch with their timing, it's beautiful. And Marina says, that there is no time, and in a way there isn't. It's what we make of it. But to be at peace, I truly believe we have to resonate with timing.
No, I agree completely. Tony, what's your take on timing? How, and connecting it to inner peace, because both are so relevant. I mean, you need one to have the other. You can't have inner peace if you're not taking the time to do things for yourself and everyone else, and planning ahead and not burning out. So what's your take on it?
Having experienced the passing of my mother into the spirit world, it's a very self-reflective journey for most people out there who lose a loved one, especially a parent or a child. And it makes you totally realize how precious time is, and how precious life is. And especially if we're talking about the physical life, I'm not going to go into the spiritual side of it in this conversation, but if we're talking about this life that we are given, it's a gift. And if you talk about the infinite wisdom and power that lives within our soul and spirit, and then we have this sophisticated machine called body, it is up to us how we use that time to really activate all these different faculties and, I would say, amazing things that are given to us by design. And if we don't stop and truly appreciate every millisecond of our time, before we know it, that time's run out. And just being there for my mom in the last breath, she literally left this world with one breath. So it was a very beautiful to observe all of it. But also, all of us, we're not immune to that. But we seem to forget, especially the younger generation, they seem to forget that we are heading that way. None of us is immune to the limitation that we have in this physical body. So stopping and really understanding what you do with your time in any moment in your life is the best thing to do and to give to yourself as a gift from yourself to yourself. Because no one can bring that back. Meaning we cannot even bring back, the time we lost yesterday, for instance. Yeah. So from a perspective of what I do quite a lot with all of my clients, especially on the vital planning, there is an area where within a year we really go and plan 365 days and what they do every single day to be able to create most extraordinary life. And this is where when I actually designed my methodology that is now trademarked globally, and it's taken me to amazing places, and now being able to even coach some of the teachers that they used to teach me, and really help some really great people. The alarm within the methodology, it's really alarming you when you're not on time with your true authentic self. So it's very interesting that discussing about time, and also looking at Ysanne from her astrological point of view. If you look at the time, you have 12 on the clock. We have the 12 signs. You know, we have so many things time in the world, and being able to really spend some time to actually give yourself the gift of inner peace is where you lose yourself outside of the time and space continuum. And this is where truly you can access the voice of your soul and have that true intuition of what you want to do in the next step. It makes you a better healer. It makes you a better leader. It makes you a better coach, better mentor, better businessman, better husband, better partner, better father, better friend. So, you know, when you have all those amazing benefits, I wonder why people do not spend more time in their lives to create and attain that inner peace, because it is actually the foundation of who you are.
Yeah, very true. And well, you know, and this is why so the work that you do is so important, because you know you're getting to help a lot of people by speaking at events. You know, you can make this subject approachable to many more people, and you know it goes for both of you. I mean, we have the event coming up on Thursday. You're both going to be speaking about inner peace. You're both going to be speaking about timing. There's a masterclass in the afternoon where you know people can actually work with you almost one-to-one, and they can actually put questions to you about how they can apply inner peace and timing in a way that makes sense to them. And like everything in life, having someone tell you and guide you through it, you know, is so much more valuable than trying to sort of figure out the recipe for yourself, which you can do, of course, you know, but it just seems to be a quicker shortcut. And as you said, Tony, we do have a limited time in this mortal life. So, you know, why waste it trying to figure out? So, you know, I wanted to ask you both, starting with you, Ysanne, what are you going to teach people at the masterclass on the 7th at Make the News Attain Inner Peace?
Absolutely. I'm so looking forward to this as well, Darie. And of course, meeting up with you again, Tony. I know we met a few weeks ago. Yeah. Because I'm an astrologer, I think I'm fairly not unique, but what I've chosen to do is to make it very accessible to the everyday person. I'm not teaching it. I'm not talking the lingo of it. It's quite a technical language. And I'm not dealing with the star signs of the zodiac. I really, after nearly 30 years, wanted to specialize in timing. And to know we have these inner timekeepers. Certainly I link with the planetary cycles, but there's things way and beyond that as well. So I love the idea of questions. In fact, whenever I give a talk or run a workshop, it's always interactive. My feeling is there's a limit to how much people can just listen, particularly nowadays. So the interaction is very important, and to feel that people can engage and you can bring out of them perhaps what they weren't really expecting to ask or to say. And I hope they will, to ask about not so much timing with events in their lives, but about their own rhythms where they feel uncomfortable. And, and not to feel under that pressure to for that time, to be useful all the time. People don't honour themselves enough. We are precious. That little bit of God or creator is in each one of us, and we have to really treasure it. And that means the gift of inner peace as well. Otherwise, I've always said, it's my joke, one day when we do pass on, our higher self or God or whatever might say, whose life have you led? Yeah? In other words, people are less important than you, but they're not more, in the sense that we are all equal. And you know, it's taken me a long time to know that. So I really want to help people on Thursday about honouring, acknowledging their own timing of their rhythm, their dance of life, their dance of life. To tap into that and to give exercises and to acknowledge their body is part of nature. And we know it, we've had all these answers instilled in us, well, actually collectively for a long, long while, not just in this lifetime. And just to click back into that timing and that rhythm. So I really hope to help people with that and to learn a bit myself along the way. Nothing like giving a talk, presenting something.
That's about it, because you kind of get to experience all the masterclasses. You're there from the beginning.
Yeah.
You always learn something new, even if you're the one doing the teaching of some of it. So yeah.
And you know what? If I don't know the answer, when I first started giving talks 30 odd years ago, I thought, what if I don't know? And I learned, actually, I don't know. Does somebody here know? And they do, and they love it. So people can help one another, yes?
Yes, true.
And I think that's beautiful. That's a kind of humility that comes with experience, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
And I tend to work ad lib. I don't plan too much with the talk or anything. I just let it come from me, and the right people will be there, whether it's one person, we hope we get more than one, or 100.
Always hoping to get more than one. It's true.
Oh, we will, yeah.
As far as all events go, you always try for more than one.
Yeah.
And Tony, yourself, what will you be teaching?
Well, basically, I would take the audience through few exercises, as well as basically teach them some tools that they can bring in their personal toolbox. Like, imagine you bring the best tradesman to do some DIY in your own house. Now, we tend to do things like that, but many people forget that DIY is required within ourselves every single day. So I'm going to give them some multi-usage tools that they can use to really repair different parts of themselves which causes them inner discord. And also being able to teach and give them a unique tool, which celebrities fly me around the world to teach them, to really bring that healing from within, to really bring that inner peace that basically they can go out into the world, and no matter what they are facing, they'll be able to use it instantly in there to bring themselves back into a present moment. Because going back into that timing, if we don't know how to bring ourselves back into that present moment, mind is so powerful, and it will be like this uncontrollable river that can drag you down and kill you. So I'm going to teach them how to be really taking inner control and being able to understand the link between all the different chakras within the body and how that relates to the psychology of the human being and how that relates to all the different 8 key areas of life. Because unless they learn how to balance those things, any of those areas in life can really drag them back into the noise and into the distraction and into, I would say, illness of the body. So I will teach them how to use the alarm methodology to be able to handle any form of situation and cope better with stress, cope better with daily demands, be able to communicate better with people when they find themselves in that noise. Because when we are noisy within, we actually are noisy with other people around us. And as Ysanne said earlier on, she has this calming influence. And I love feminine energy like that, because I've met people who have that calming influence, but then you meet people in day-to-day life, unless you are a teacher, but the moment you go next to a person, you can be infected by their emotion, even if they don't speak to you. So I'm going to teach them how to be able, from within, to be able to dissolve those kind of energies that really can penetrate the auric field and cause a harm into their body.
Wow, amazing. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to be there on the front row listening to both of you, and I hope our viewers will do as well. So that is all taking place on Thursday at Make the News Attaining Inner Peace. We're going to have Tony there, we're going to have Ysanne there, myself, Dr. Darie Nani. I think Professor Christy Mathedon will also be joining us for the masterclass sessions. And the whole point of Make the News is that it's an educational event. So during the day we have master classes, you have access to amazing speakers and coaches, and in the afternoon, in the evenings, we have more traditional speeches. So Tony will be giving a speech on inner peace. I think Ysanne is going to be focusing on timing, and you even get to speak on stage. So if you feel that you have a good idea, whether that's your business or you're trying to break through as a coach or as a speaker, then Make the News a perfect environment for it. You get amazing education from amazing speakers and coaches, and at the same time you get this chance to speak on stage. So I hope all of you can join us for that. It's taking place at the Crown Plaza, Battersea. Just go to makethenews.co.uk for more information and tickets, and we hope to see you there. Tony, thank you again for having coming on. If you want to connect with Tony, it's tonyselimi.com, I believe, and I'm going to put that up right now. Same for Ysanne, is ysanne.com. And Ysanne, I have to say, I love this website address, ysanne.com. How did you manage that? That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because it wasn't taken. I've had people try and buy that domain name from me. I mean, men get very excited.
Yeah.
Oh, I said, well, so what? No, it's true, because it's an unusual name, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for coming on. It's been a pleasure to host both of you. I hope our listeners have enjoyed the show, and I'm looking forward to seeing you both face to face on Thursday. Till then, from all of us here is good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thank you, and bye bye.